Professional Fanatics here. We got Mike's Story on the line. Round one of the draft is in the books. What say you, Story?
Yo, Rob, what a interesting draft to say the least. Pretty chalk to start, but things got a little weird near the double digits and then got a little crazy at the end. I mean, you saw that. We'll get to it, obviously, the last pick of the first round.
Yeah, pretty weird. Story's just leaving a draft party, getting done with a draft party. He's probably about as lubed up as Jenna Jameson, getting ready for an anal scene. Woo!
No, I love the draft, man. I love having a good time in the draft. I can't even begin to tell you. I was texting with Bears fans all night long. I mean, we're thrilled. Thrilled with Caleb Williams. We're thrilled, especially everybody was hoping that Roma Dunze would be there at 9. That was the thought was. And yes, the Bears did draft a wide receiver. They're setting him up, Caleb Williams, to succeed year one. You have to agree, yeah? Like, they did everything they could.
Yeah, it's really aggressive. They're whipping their dick out and just saying "fuck you" to the league. We'll see if it works, right?
Yeah, I mean, we'll see if it works. I mean, Keenan Allen's been known to have injury problems, but you've got DJ Moore. Keenan Allen. Like, they signed DeAndre Swift. Like, they are setting Caleb Williams up to succeed. If he can't succeed with these offensive weapons, he won't succeed.
Correct. And I'm excited to talk to you because you know how it is. Everyone, especially in Chicago, this draft, everyone has their opinion, even though these people don't even really watch football. So I'm just like pulling what little hair I have left. Just like, okay, people telling me Keenan Allen has 6 years left. I'm like, dude, he's got 2 years left of being at least a 2, and maybe, right?
They're making a push real early. Like, I think we can agree this draft was pretty chalk first 5 picks, right?
Definitely.
Williams, Jaden Daniels, Drake May, Marvin Harrison. This was as chalk as the chalk comes, and then Joe all league neighbors. Like, it was pretty good up until, Michael Penix, number 8 overall for the Atlanta Falcons. The Falcons who just signed the guy who tore his Achilles. Can you believe that?
Dude, do the Falcons think they're playing baseball, trying to like bolster their rotation? Like, you can only play one quarterback. And Kirk Cousins is playing, and Penix is going to be 25 years old soon. Is that right?
Penix going on 25. Kirk Cousins is 35, so there's a 10-year age gap. Does this say that the Atlanta Falcons do not believe that Kirk Cousins will be ready to start the year, or they're worried about his Achilles? I don't know. This was a weird one. The fact that he went 2 picks before J.J. McCarthy, you and I were texting about this. I'm as surprised as anybody, but I'm a believer in Penix. I just can't believe that the Atlanta Falcons went all in at Kirk Cousins and then also used their first-round pick, their top 8 pick of the draft, to draft Michael Penix. It's surprising to me.
But Penix is, if anything, he's pro-ready. Like, he's supposed to be ready day one. He's not a project. Drake May, I get it. Pair them up, sit Drake May for a year, 2 years, whatever. Penix is not that guy, so that's why it makes no sense. Also, it's the Falcons, right? That's what they do. They do the dumbest things. They draft running back super high, tight end super high. They don't utilize their weapons. It's on and on and on with this fucking franchise.
Yeah, no, I agreed. Bijan Robinson is a generation talent, but they drafted him way too high. They obviously drafted Pitts way too high. You mentioned Drake May. Him getting drafted 3 overall, he's not sit. He could use a year to sit, but he will not sit in New England. He will start week 1. Yeah. It was a massive offensive explosion in the first round. J.C. Latham for the Titans, offensive tackle from Alabama. He goes 7 overall to the Titans. Olu Fashanu, I thought he was going to go a little earlier than this. He goes 8 or 11 to the Jets. They traded with Minnesota. I don't know what the Jets are doing. They traded down 1 pick, and they got some ancillary picks in order to trade down so that the Vikings could draft J.J. McCarthy, 10 overall. This one was weird to me. I thought the Jets would have stuck there and took J.J. McCarthy. What do you think about that?
Or an offensive, like a weapon for Aaron Rodgers, which, you know what? What do we know about Aaron Rodgers? Packers, Jets. We're not going to give you any weapons, motherfucker.
Yeah, do what you got to do.
Fucking shit on that guy.
Protect them. As soon as the Vikings traded up, that was J.J. You knew that was J.J. McCarthy, yeah?
Right, yeah. So you were mentioning about offensive explosion. First 14 picks in this draft, all offensive players. That's got to be some kind of record.
First 15, I think.
50, some crazy number, dude.
Colts took a lot too. That's got to be a record. This shattered the record for most offensive players taken in the first round of the draft. It got a little quiet near the middle there. Brian Thomas dropped a little farther than I thought he was going to, and then we had a cornerback, offensive line, center, D edge. Xavier Worthy, 28 to the Chiefs. God, they love their speed, huh?
Yeah, I mean, that's a great spot for him, although, we saw with Sky Moore, like, he could get buried in a couple bonehead mistakes. Kadarius Toney, same thing. But it's a luxury pick for a team that can win with anyone, right? They got Mahomes, you got Andy Reid, you don't need much else. Everything else is a luxury.
It's a luxury pick. It's an interesting pick that they traded with Buffalo to get to that spot, which I'm a little interested in. I'm not quite sure what does that mean that the Rashee Rice situation is worse than we think? I don't know what to think about that. We'll see what happens. Xavier Worthy could carve out a role for himself there. But Rashee Rice, like, I really thought that he was going to take the next step.
Right. And here's the question with Rashee Rice, real quick. The OJ thing, we haven't really touched on OJ, but maybe the cops planted a glove in Rashee Rice's car we don't know about.
Yeah, it's very possible.
I have a couple questions for you, though. Let's get back to Penix real quick, just because it's mind-boggling, right? If someone told you before the draft started that Penix, you were higher on him than I was. I had him at like 6, or I had him at like 8, dude. You had him at 4, I believe. If someone told you that he was going top 10, you'd be very surprised, right?
100%.
And
I thought that he was 20, top 20.
Right.
I thought there was somebody going to trade up to get him.
And it would be a quarterback needy team. Not a team with a, I know he's coming off an injury, but they paid $200 million for a guy to play 1 year.
It's an established starter. I mean, Kirk Cousins is the established starter there. Michael Penix, I'm trying to decide if he's the heir apparent or if he's taking over. If he's taking over, then why did they sign him? Did they sign Kirk Cousins to a 3-year deal? I like Michael Penix. I like a lot about his game. I like what he brings, but he's older. I mean, he's 20. What do we say? 24.
Yeah, 24. Gonna be 25. Yeah.
Coming into the league, so this worries me about Kirk Cousins and what that says to him. I don't know what the Falcons are doing.
No one does.
2 picks later, the Vikings draft James McCarthy. I mean, pretty chalk there, just in general. I thought McCarthy would go above him. I thought Bo Nix would go above him.
Everyone did. And the one thing is, I've heard a lot of people talking about the Matt Flynn, Russell Wilson thing, how, like, they pretty much cut ties with Matt Flynn right away, right? But they gave Matt Flynn, like, $40 million, and Russell Wilson was a third-round pick. So this is not a comparison at all. Like, it might be a similar situation, but a third-round pick compared to a top 8 pick when you have a possible playoff team right now, get an edge rusher, trade back. Trade back. How about that? If you get him at 16, that's cool. But insane. What do you think Stephen A. Smith's reaction was to them drafting Penix? Did his head explode or what?
I would think so. I don't know. You must have seen it. I have no idea. I would think that he would be surprised in it. But it felt like the reaction was a little muted. The people I was were like, oh, yeah, that's kind of crazy. He's a left-handed quarterback.
It's very crazy.
Yeah. To me, this is the biggest surprise of round 1.
Right. So we're going to talk about biggest surprise. Let's just toss this one out because this is so outlandish that, like, it's – let's talk about real surprises, right? Like, for me, Brock Bowers, not so much where he went, but, my Michael Mayer love, the fact that he went 13 to the Raiders, and they just spent a top, a high second-round pick off Mayer last year. I know he struggled a bit. The whole offense struggled. So, like, are they trying to do a New England situation? Are they just taking best player available? What's up with that?
I think that they're done with Michael Mayer. I think that Brock Bowers is the stand-up guy there. He is going to be through which their offense runs outside of Devontae Adams. So when it's not Devontae Adams, it's Brock Bowers. Like we talked about on the mini pod, Brock Bowers is the consummate pass catcher, tight end. He's also a tremendous blocker. Like, he is the inline guy. He's also the pass catching guy. Like, it spells the end for Michael Mayer. I hate to say it. It's just.
Unless they're going to use him as a slot receiver, essentially, like they were using Kincaid, and they keep Mayer in line, kind of play that normal tight end role.
Yeah, but Hunter Renfrow's still there.
Well, he's an accountant, bro. Come on. All right, a couple other things.
Before we get off him, I'm surprised that he dropped that far down. I thought he was top 10.
Yeah, Jets.
Right?
Jets.
I thought the Jets. I mean, had they not moved out at 10, then I thought Brock Bowers would have gone there. They could certainly use another pass catcher for Aaron Rodgers, but apparently nobody likes Aaron Rodgers enough to give him weapons just to
Nope.
support him.
Yeah, that's too easy. Let's tie a bow on this quarterback situation with my boy Bo Nix. I had him at 2 on my rankings. You didn't have him ranked. You had him at like 6 or 7. You weren't a fan. I told you he was Drew Brees. And you wonder who drafted him? What coach?
The man from St. Louis, or excuse me, New Orleans himself.
Sean Payton. Sean Payton, Denver Broncos, 12th overall. He must have seen this. And actually, recently, I've been seeing the Drew Brees comps. I believe I was the first on that. I don't know why, but, I tend to hit on some of these.
Yes. I mean, 12 overall is huge.
It's high.
That would have kicked off maybe a run on quarterbacks. I thought that maybe we'd see another one go in the first round, but no, that was it. The Denver Broncos got a little scared, and I think they pulled the trigger a little too early on Bo Nix.
It's just their guy, though. I think it's just their guy, which sometimes you have to do that.
I mean, do you think he starts week 1?
Yeah.
Zach Wilson?
Yeah. Zach Wilson. Zach Wilson's out banging Cougars, dude. A lot of Cougars in fucking Denver, man.
A lot of Cougars in Denver.
Okay. Another surprise I had that was crazy, and I wasn't a big fan of A.D. Mitchell. How do you pronounce his first name? Adonai. So Adonai Mitchell, I had him lower than most, but the guys, we were talking about his athletic traits are just off the charts, right? And the 49ers take fucking Ricky Pearsall, who we didn't even talk about in our wide receiver show. We probably should have brushed on him over A.D. Mitchell.
Yeah.
Why?
So we mentioned it earlier, Xavier
Worthy.
Yeah, Xavier Worthy went well before him.
Why didn't they just take Mitchell? Both of those teams.
We should have talked about him. Ricky Pearsall is a good wide receiver out of Florida. He's got solid measurables. He has great traits. He can get off the line. He's a very polished wide receiver. I didn't think he was going to go this early. I certainly didn't take him as a first-round wide receiver, but 49ers saw something in him that they liked. This also might mean that Brandon Ayuk is on the trading block. It has been speculated that he's going to be moved, so I'm a little concerned about that we might not see Brandon Ayuk in a 49ers jersey later this year.
Well, what actually makes a lot of sense is the Bills traded off that last pick. Right now they have 33. The Bills trade 33 for Ayuk plus like a 4th rounder. What do you think about that?
Did that happen? Did I miss that? Or is that your
Carolina trade? The Bills had 32, and we didn't talk about our boy Xavier Legette going 32, right? So the Bills traded back to get 33.
Yes, they traded back, but
yes, I'm guessing they might do this.
Okay.
That makes sense, though, right?
Possible. That makes sense, and that's what I'm worried about. Like, I love Brandon Ayuk on the 49ers. If he goes to Bills, I love him there even more, actually. I would love
right, but Ricky Pearsall is not Brandon Ayuk. Let's just make this clear, okay? Not many are. Right. So that's just, I don't know what the Niners are doing there. Just take Mitchell then, or take, I don't know, man, anyone.
Ricky Pearsall is great. He's a route-running genius. Like, the guy can get separation like nobody's business, but his game is very raw. Like, you're talking about the inability to kind of see the field that a lot of these polished wide receivers have. That's Ricky Pearsall's downfall. But do the 49ers think that they've got enough in the wide receiver room already that he's an ancillary piece, or are they really willing to move on? They're not moving Deebo Samuel. His contract is it's impossible for them to move him on. So do they think that they can move on from Brandon Ayuk and they got the heir apparent with Ricky Pearsall? I'm interested to see what the 49ers do with the rest of this offseason and the rest of this draft. We got 6 more rounds to go. Don't forget that.
Yeah. Okay. Best pick of the draft.
Like, is it not Rome Odunze for the Bears? Like, the Bears are setting Caleb Williams up to succeed. If you're talking about overall what team did the best to set up for success this year, at least on the offense, it's got to be the Bears.
I'm thinking more like best value, right? Like, I know that's an idea. Like, it's also like you're talking about team fit and all that kind of stuff, ramifications.
Then it's best value. It's gonna be it's still blah, but it's Byron Murphy, defensive tackle out of Texas for the Seahawks. Like, the guy was a top 10 pick, and the Seahawks got him at 16 overall. Like, that's bottom line is the Seahawks. I feel like they had other needs, but the fact that Byron Murphy slipped to them at 16, that's the best value.
So I had just all 3. He's not an edge rusher. It fits in, but I had all 3 edge rushers. Dallas Turner, we have Jared Verse, and then who was the other one?
Jared Verse at 18 was a great pick for the Rams.
Yeah, Turner, Verse. There's the guy Latu. Latu, yeah. So all those guys, like the Bears talking about taking them at 9, they were consensus 8 to 12 overall picks. At least the first one was supposed to go. So every one of these picks, man. Latu with the Colts, Dallas Turner with the Vikings. Love that dude trading up. Beautiful pick there. And then Jared Verse for the Rams, like going 15, 17, and 19 when they should have gone 9, 11, and 13. I love those kind of picks when it's like you zag when everyone else is zigging, you zag, right? And that's what these guys did. They got all the defensive players no one wanted, and let's be honest, these guys have talent. They're not, Myles Garrett level players, but they're going to be Pro Bowlers, at least a couple of them.
Yeah. The Vikings desperately needed defensive help, and drafting an edge at 17, drafting Dallas Turner at 17 out of Alabama, like that solidifies their line.
Yeah, love it. Any final thoughts? Anything else you want to talk? Oh, let's talk about Leggett a little bit. We were higher on him than anyone, and he was, draft buzz and PFF like down at like 16, 17, 14. I had him at 4. You had him at 6. He goes, wide receiver 5 or wide receiver 6, but in the first round, ahead of A.D. Mitchell, ahead of some of these other guys, ahead of Ladd McConkey.
Ahead of Ladd McConkey.
I mean,
everybody thought Ladd McConkey was going to scream up into the first round.
So,
I mean, you're talking about a couple trades, KC to Buffalo to Carolina. Carolina drafts him at 32. Not an ideal landing spot by any means. I think Bryce Young is going to take a step forward this year. We talked about it on the pod. He's a big-time vertical threat. He had a tremendous final season at South Carolina. He's an older wide receiver, but he's going to be a big part of Bryce Young's development in year 2. I love this guy. I love his game. I love what he brings to the Panthers. I don't know that he's going to be, if we're strictly talking about a fantasy perspective, like a fantasy football perspective, I don't know that he's going to be a true fantasy difference maker, but I want to see this kid's development over the first 3 years of his career, because I think that he can be a solid contributor, a difference maker in the NFL. We'll just see where he goes. From the Panthers, it's like I said, not an ideal landing spot, but I'm so thrilled that he got drafted in the first round.
We're going to go into this more. We're going to do our rookie landing spots later this week after the draft is over, but I want to touch on a couple things with him. If they don't shore up that offensive line, it's not going to matter because he's a downfield player, mostly a downfield player, and Bryce Young had no time last year. And if that doesn't change, I don't give a fuck if you had Randy Moss. It's not going to matter, right?
Right.
But here's the one thing that I love about the situation. They clearly targeted him. I heard a report saying he was told they were taking him at the end of the first round, like guaranteed, because clearly he's a mid-second round player at best, is what everyone else had him on their board, besides us. So they obviously had big plans for this guy, right? The upside is if they use him in a Deebo Samuel, and you comped him to Deebo running the ball, Deebo Samuel style player, where it's, not only he's going downfield better than Deebo, but he's getting the the Curtis Samuel role, the little gadget role. They're manufacturing touches for this guy, giving him 4 to 6 touches around the line of scrimmage, also with that awesome role he's going to have playing X.
Yeah. No, I agree with you there 100%.
Are the Panthers smart enough to do that, though, is the question.
Well, yeah. I mean, jeez. Who's the coach there for the Panthers?
Some homeless dude. I don't fucking even know. It's not Frank Wright, is it?
I think it's Dave Canales.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's some bum.
Yeah. So, I'm pretty sure Dave Canales was the offensive coordinator for, was it the Bucks? Somewhere in the NFC South recently. So I think he's got some pedigree and knows, and he was on the Seahawks for a while. So yeah, a lot of it is just catering the offense to what their strengths are. So I'd like to think that they can get there. Whether or not, I don't know. That's a different story altogether. Let me ask you real quick, Bob, before we hang up. What do you think, which wide receiver, because we didn't have any running backs drafted in round 1, but wide receiver, if you were talking from a fantasy perspective, who makes a difference in year 1 outside of Marvin Harrison? Because I think we can agree Marvin Harrison probably going to be a difference maker for fantasy. What other ones do you think?
I mean, Neighbors has the clearest path to opportunity. But again, Danny Dimes sucks, and no offensive line. Like, Danny Dimes just got right back there. So I mean, Rome has too much. Rome has a lot of JSN, Jackson Smith and Jigba vibes with the Seahawks last year, right? Third banana. Although I think he's a little better playmaker that can force his target share up around 22%, opposed to what JSN was at 16%. For the first half of the year.
A lot of competition there.
Yeah, I mean, Brian Thomas, I was just not a fan of, but essentially they played Calvin Ridley out of position last year, right? They exclusively used him outside, exclusively ran him downfield, did not move him around. They're essentially just going to put Brian Thomas in that Calvin Ridley role. And as much as I didn't like Brian Thomas Jr., I feel like he is more suited for that role, right? A big-bodied, fast guy, run a go route, put the Gabe Davis role, if you will. 94% of the snaps, good quarterback play, solid team, shitty division in terms of defenses. I think it might be him as much as I dislike the man. And then the X Factor guy is Xavier Worthy, but I mean, have we not seen this play out with the Chiefs 3 different times, with McCall Hardman, with fucking Sky Moore, with Kadarius Toney? Like, it's odds are it's gonna be nothing, right? But it could hit into a Tyreek Hill level. Not Tyreek Hill level, that's crazy, but a 60 catch, 1,000-yard, 8 touchdown season.
Yeah, I'm not touching any Kansas City Chiefs player with a 10-foot pole because they're willing to slow roll everybody. They slow rolled Travis Kelce last year, right?
Yeah.
So Xavier Worthy might be a second half player. For listeners, like, you want to keep an eye on this guy for the second half. I think you're right, Brian Thomas. Like, as much as I'm not a huge fan of his game, like, the dude is a prototypical X wide receiver, 6'3", 210 pounds. Like, he's got no competition in Jacksonville. It's kind of a weak division all around, right? You've got Houston out there. You've got Tennessee. The defenses aren't terrible. I think this guy can carve out a pretty good role for himself in year one. So if I'm looking from a fantasy perspective, none of these guys are going to be very expensive. I might throw a flyer on Brian Thomas, Xavier Worthy. Hell, Ricky Pearsall. Like, if Brandon Ayuk gets moved, he might have a role himself next year. So plenty of opportunity. Let's see what day 2 brings tomorrow. We've got 2 more rounds tomorrow, and there will be some running backs drafted for sure.
And also, let's not forget, like, the answer could be, I know we're talking day 1, right, what just happened, but the answer could very well be in Adonai Mitchell when he goes to the Bills, for instance. That'd be the guy. A Troy Franklin if he goes to the right situation. A Keon Coleman, who is a pro-ready player, if he goes to a system where he's going to be the number 2. All these guys will probably jump, besides Brian Thomas, would jump those guys in my mind, just in terms of opportunity and snap share.
Yeah, we did talk about that. Landing spot is certainly a big component here. So whomever goes to build, if he's a good fit, like, somebody needs to replace Gabe Davis and Stephon Diggs there. Like, there is a ton of opportunity. We said, Keon Coleman goes to the Bills. He probably jumps all these guys except for Marvin Harrison and Malik Neighbors, right?
Yeah, it's crazy, man. It's going to be exciting. Awesome. I'm glad to talk to someone that's our college football expert up in here. Refreshing. Love your takes. Love you as always. And I'll talk to you soon, my man.
Yeah, we will circle back on this, and we'll talk soon. Thanks, Rob.
All right, dude. Later.
And it's been a complete joy.